Welcome to Two Hypnotherapists Talking with me, Denise Billen-Mejia, in Delaware, USA.
And me, Martin Ferber, in Preston, UK.
This weekly podcast is for anyone and everyone who'd like to know more about the fascinating subject of hypnosis and the benefits it offers.
I'm a clinical hypnotherapist and psychotherapist.
I'm a retired medical doctor turned consulting hypnotist.
We are Two Hypnotherapists Talking.
So let's get on with the episode.
Right, okay, yeah, let's get this show on the road. Denise, good to see you. How are you?
Yeah, good to see you again. And we're both suffering from heat extreme, I think, at the moment. We're recording.
I wouldn't call it extreme, but it's warm. It's warm over here today, yeah, which is good. I'm very, very welcome, I may add, because whenever the sun's shining, it picks me right up.
Oh, really? I like sunshine, but heat and I are not very good friends. But we've had a couple of weeks of it. So.
No, we've only had 2 days, so I'm making the most of it. Anyway, a couple of episodes back, you were sort of asking me questions about what made me a hypnotist and what the client journey is like in my practice. So I thought I would turn it round on you today. How does that sound?
Fair enough. Go ahead.
Okay.
He says tremulously.
No awkward questions. What made you a hypnotist?
Going to HMI. When I wasn't able to go back to medicine because I couldn't put in 12-hour days anymore, and my brain works slower. And sometimes decided it wants to quit. I did some health coaching, and it was fairly useful to people, I think, and it certainly was relatively easy for me to remember the medicine that went behind the thoughts for those things. But it didn't really excite me at all. Much as I love talking to people, that part was fine, but it just didn't academically, it wasn't that challenging. And I took a hypnosis intro course.
Okay.
At that time, it was a four episodes. You could, binge it if you want to. You could do one a week. And I did that, and by the second one, that was it. That was what I should have been done. And when I realized during that 4 weeks, they told us how the American Medical Association and the British Medical Association had said that all doctors should be taught it. Right. That's fighting words.
Okay. Let me
really should have been.
Let me interrupt you then. Let me ask you. You said by the second episode, you were already decided this is what I'm going to do. Had you been hypnotized by that point then? No. Right. Okay.
No. Once I was an enrolled student, we were partnered up so that people could practice, techniques and get a sense of what was going on. But no, I was basically watching canned education for a month, and I could write to the tutor and ask him questions. And that school's been around for 50 years, and for the last 20, I think they've been offering distance. Maybe they did it by tape before, way back in the dark days. But it's amazing to me. There was only about 6-7 years ago. I had no clue. I had gone looking for information on hypnosis for a friend because the friend had an issue, and I just read bits on the internet and suddenly fell into this course. And then into their training program, which I also took online for the most part. It was done online. Okay.
So I'm just thinking, you found those references then way back 1951, wasn't it? When the American Medical Association and British Medical Association.
I think it was 53 for Britain and 58 for the States, but I'll check. We'll put it in the notes. But it was certainly in the 50s, during my lifetime, they did this. And there's no evidence that has ever happened. There are some schools over here that have had in the past or are having now some acceptance of hypnosis amongst the people teaching. So I think a couple of people are exposed to it a little bit, but it's very... it's like any elective in any subject. You've got to have an interest to know that the stuff exists. It's not made readily available in the way I think it should be.
Okay. Yeah. And the thing is, over here at the moment, mental health is becoming quite a big issue, quite a big prominent
Mm-hmm.
thing. And you were talking before about well-being coaching.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Now, over here, again, doctors are recommending things like meditation, and they're recommending other well-being things. And yet
Right.
still hypnotherapy isn't there within
Yeah.
the
And
NHS.
it's strange that it isn't, because there are enough hypnotists
Mm,
for you know, within a few streets of the doctor's practice, you
mm,
almost certainly could, and certainly with the hospitals they have. Now, it's not uncommon to find anesthetists who have done a certain amount of this,
mm,
but they don't advertise that anywhere. They don't come and tell you, you know, you can have this or you can have this. Now, generally speaking, I would use gas and air and go out. I would like to be asleep for this operation. Thank you very
yeah,
much. But
me
for some
too.
people, that just really isn't an option. It's a dangerous thing for them to have. So
Mm,
if hypnosis is available, and they can be, obviously, you wouldn't have somebody come in fresh off the street and say, good, I'll hypnotize you for that. You need to do some
mm,
prep work and reassure them that it's going to work. But yeah, it would be so helpful. And there's
mm.
a dentist, Mike Gove, G-O-V. He's up in Edinburgh, he was in Edinburgh. And he runs the Braid Society. James Braid.
James Braid, yeah.
Yeah, one of the 1800s medical people who brought hypnosis along. He used it enough that people, you know, it was a very common thing. The trouble is that everybody says, oh, it works for this, it works for this, it works for this, it works for this. And it does, but it doesn't in every single person.
No.
And no medication does either. There's not, you know, there's always going to be a person who cannot use a particular thing. But I'm glad I'm seeing a little bit of an uptick. Initially, I thought it was just, you know, how that is when you have a certain color car, everybody suddenly got that color car.
Yeah, you're aware of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I thought it was that, but I do think there is a bit of an uptick at the moment.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
It's been very much not an unexpected finding that somebody's using hypnosis during childbirth.
Yeah, hypnobirthing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's been around for quite some time, and that does seem to be popular. One of my, I know she won't mind me saying it, one of my cousins actually did hypnobirthing with her birth, and that's nearly 30 years ago now.
Yeah, it's been around for a while. That hypnobirthing is a
trademark,
protected,
isn't it?
yeah, trademark thing. But hypnosis through childbirth can be done outside of that. You just can't call it hypnobirthing. But it's strange to me that so many people use that and yet don't look at how many other things it might be helpful for. But they may indeed be allowing themselves to be calmer and to use the breathing techniques that they're taught.
Do you use hypnosis on yourself for anything? I'm just thinking back to myself last week now. I went to the dental hygienist for my usual 3-monthly visit. Now, I have a real good sort out there. They use the, what's it called? Sonic scraper thing on me.
Oh, yeah.
Really get stuck in and have the full flush out and everything else. And I find it very strangely relaxing. I never used to before I was a hypnotherapist. But I know I don't sort of knock myself zoned out unconscious, but I can prepare myself for it. And I find it very, very relaxing because it's very rare I can just lie back for half an hour and switch off. And that's what I can do when they're doing that. And she always says to me, let me know if there's any discomfort. Let me know if you want me to stop and this, that, and the other. And I'm like, get on with it. It's fine. Yeah. And no, I wouldn't say I wouldn't call that self-hypnosis. For
it's
me,
hypno adjacent, isn't it?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Yeah, but it's very, very relaxing. But I've just pre-framed my expectations beforehand. That, you know, as soon as I hear this sound, I will feel completely relaxed.
Yeah. So Yeah, it's certainly quite common for people with dental fears to go to a hypnotist.
Yeah. I've never had any dental fears. I have treated people for dental fears. And for most people, it's the discomfort, it's that invasion of space, and it's that fear of having that first needle in. Because after that first needle, you don't really feel anything, do you?
No, this is true. But some people want to be able to go through the entire procedure without the needle at all. And for some people, that's necessary because they have an allergy issue with medications or they need to be able to feel their face immediately after they finish working on their teeth. The anesthesia takes a while to wear off. But what's infuriating to me is so many things it would have been useful for me to have had. And, I had 3 kids. It would have been nice to have had a hypnobirth in there somewhere.
Yeah, of course. But moreover, when you were a pediatrician, I would have thought, okay, you saw children in various distressed states. I'm talking distressed through physical injury, not anything deeper. Okay, so some child, think of some injuries, a broken ankle, a broken arm, all the kinds of bumps and scrapes children have.
All the stitches on their faces.
Yeah, I mean that's another one. When you're having to.
From a technical point of view, it's very simple repair. But when you've got a little child,
you're coming at them with a needle and thread, and
right.
I mean, that child's already hurt and injured, and you're going to inflict more pain on them putting the stitches through.
Not really, but yes.
Yeah, but yeah. So I mean, okay. So how could hypnosis have helped them? What particular technique might you have applied, or?
I don't know, because I suspect you'd have to. It would depend on how old the child was. And what their personality type was. Did you, when you were in training, did you differentiate between people who, in my school, they called it emotional and physical, just the way people saw the world?
Personality types. Yeah, we did it from a different angle, though. There's a really good book actually called, was it Warriors, Nomads, and I can't remember the other bit.
Just bad as our friend with polar bears.
I'll find the book and I'll put it in the show notes. Okay.
All right.
There was a really good book we read, and that goes on the personality types, but it's loosely done around Freud's with everything you want. You either want to eat it, get it out the other end, or do something else with it. Loosely based around that for personality types. So, all right, I want to pick your brains a little bit now, Denise, like you picked mine on the last but one episode. So
good luck.
Okay, good luck. All right. No, but you became qualified in hypnosis. Okay. And I know that you operate mainly online, but tell me a client journey. I mean, I know there's no typical client because everybody's different. But what would somebody expect if they made an inquiry with you? All right.
Well, first, I have seen a few people in person because they live local. And for a while, I thought I would have a hybrid practice. But then COVID threw that out. And I said, no, I'm staying. Just be online. But I do occasionally do in-person visits if it's warranted. What was your question?
Describe what would happen if I contacted you as a potential client. If I got in touch with you and said, "Hey Denise, I'm dealing with extreme anxiety at the moment, and there's a lot going on in my life. Can you help me with hypnosis?" What would you say?
Yes, hypnosis can be very useful in circumstances like this. Is this our first meeting? Is this the first call? My intro call is shorter than yours because I don't do any hypnosis, but it can be as long as the potential client wants to be talking to me about whatever it is, within less than an hour, please, because I've got other clients. But I don't get very many people who don't believe it will work. I've had a couple. One of whom was sent to me because he wanted to lose weight. Weight is a very common issue for people to take to a hypnotist, which is good for hypnotists because it works. But this gentleman was a patient of a physician who did refer other cases to me. And so he did not believe it would work. But he wasn't anti. He was just skeptical.
Yeah, okay.
So and that's how we proceeded. I saw him for a full session, hypnotized him, and then I would see them once a week because it's one of those things you don't want to leave too long.
No, with weight loss.
Call maybe yeah. So and then every so often we would do a full session, so that because they needed to have some additional thing put into the mix. And he was really very funny. He's a very sweet guy, and we would talk, and he had a very interesting retiree, he had a very interesting life, and we would talk, and then we would do the hypnosis. And at some point during that time, he was, I don't know why this is working. I said, well, I can give you some technical, what we think is happening, but does it really matter? Is it working? This is the question. Is it working, and is it doing you any harm? Obviously, lots of things work to do things, but they might.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose when it comes to the mind, people want to know the ins and outs of how it works. Whereas if you had, as a doctor as you are, prescribed a drug for somebody with, I don't know, any kind of physical complaint, they don't need to know, and they don't generally ask the ins and outs of how does this drug work, really, and you don't start giving them the full
but you
chemical
also
or biological explanation.
If it's got a particularly well-known side effect that happens sometimes, you would forewarn them that don't worry about that, it'll wear off, or stop taking it right away and call me, because there are a few where it could be a real problem. I don't think that would ever happen with hypnosis, but I've definitely had one gentleman, a very, very sweet guy, and the first session was just a bust. I felt he was trying so hard. He was trying so hard. It was getting in his own way. So after the session, I said, we'll do another one in a couple of weeks, and we just started the clock again. And he was absolutely fine. He needed that first one as a dummy run to see that nothing terrible was going to happen. And he did really well. Yeah.
I mean, do you ever give, excuse me, a simple analogy of how hypnosis works, an oversight sort of thing, if people ask?
I do explain a little bit. It does depend on their interest and their age and a bunch of stuff. How would you explain it?
Well, I explain, I always give a bit of a metaphor about what the subconscious is or is not, and explain that you can't point to the picture of the brain and say that's the subconscious, because it doesn't physically exist. And then the example I like to give of how hypnosis works is, and why I explain it takes time. I will say, if you watch a really good film, or have you ever watched a really good film that you've enjoyed and you've slept on it, and the following few days, little bits of it keep playing back to you. It keeps reminding you of the good bits that you really enjoyed. And I say hypnosis is a little bit like that. The suggestions that we give you will keep replaying, and you'll keep remembering them, and they will start to perhaps alter your habitual performance.
Even without you actively remembering them. They can go slowly, which is why I never see anybody closer than a week, and it's much more likely to be 2 weeks. But most people can do that, but some people's schedules don't allow them, and they have to sort of fiddle around. But it isn't necessary that you know the ins and outs of hypnosis for it to work. You do have to trust the hypnotist.
Oh yeah.
So you do have to spend some time first, especially that first visit, where you're really spending some conversational time.
Yeah, I mean, rapport is the essential part, isn't it, for any therapy to work, any kind of therapy.
Pretty much. And so I'm going to do stitches. You want to make sure the doctors are chatting with you too.
Yeah, and have the doctor in a good mood, otherwise they might just pull them. No, I'm
professional, sir.
I think it's just because of the mysticism with hypnosis. So if you went to, or if a person went to a CBT therapist, I doubt very much they'll say, tell me how CBT works.
Yeah.
They just go along with that CBT therapy and whatever that involves. It's just that thing. It's that mystery, isn't it? About
and of course, hypnosis has been used as a trope for so many movies and so many shows.
Yeah, of course.
I've been to a couple of live shows since becoming a hypnotist, just for curiosity's sake. And most of them are very good, but you can if you are already trained in it, you can see and you can tell when people are really, really under or just playing along and being good sports. My problem with that, I really don't wish them any ill will at all, but it does kind of get in the way of the serious side of hypnosis. It tends to, oh, you sound like you want me to send me to a quack. You don't really think this is a real thing. Yeah, I do. I do think it's a real thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
No, I've never, not in 30 years, been to a stage hypnosis thing, but I did watch. Have you heard of Darren Brown?
vaguely.
Yeah, okay. He describes himself more as a mentalist, and he's written books. He wrote a really good book a couple of years ago now, but it's based around Stoicism and the principles of it, etc. But he did a stage show, which was televised recently, within the last 12 months, sort of thing. And I was watching it with Nick, and I said to Nick, because he was doing various routines, sort of thing, all in a very respectful manner, I may add, not doing any kind of performance things. He was doing more memory things with people. And as he brought several people up to the stage, I pointed to one to Nick and said, "That's the one he'll keep on," and he did. Because you could tell, the person that was genuinely in a trance.
But that's the problem. Is not, I don't object to people being entertained by that, really, but it bothers me that you as a therapeutic hypnotist, you have to you got to plow through all of that resistance before you get to the other end. Now, usually when most people are over that, or they call me, but sometimes it's like, you have to call this person or I'm leaving you, whatever, and they call me and they don't really want to hire me. They're going through the motions to do what their wife or the girlfriend or whoever and calling me, but they really don't want to get hypnotized.
Well, then it won't work. It's the same. I had quite a while ago now, a call with a gentleman that got in contact with me, exactly that kind of thing. I want to stop smoking, he said. I said, "How much do you want to stop smoking?" "Well, I don't want to, but my wife's making me."
Yeah.
She's told me that. Yeah, not going to work. I said, "You've got to want to." Have you any other experiences of managing expectations? Because really, for both of us, it's quite a part of the client journey, isn't it? Managing their expectations in the first place.
Whilst also instilling the idea that it's going to work.
Yeah.
It is quite difficult. Most people, we sell our services differently.
Yeah.
I take an educated guess at how long something will take.
Okay.
And I quote them a price. And if you're done before, you can keep those extra time in your back pocket and come and see me again. And if you're not, they're happy because they've had the result. Yeah. And they get, 3 weeks free. And if it takes longer than that, then I will continue until they've had enough of they're sick of it. Now, in that, occasionally you will meet somebody that you cannot hypnotize for that issue. And you know that the resistance is so strong from that person. It doesn't mean that hypnosis wouldn't work necessarily. It might well be a different hypnotist or a different method of hypnotism. They're very closely aligned, but some of us, does everybody like boots? I was thinking of the drugstore, not the shoe thing, but
right.
I can't think of another big brand name that would fit.
John Lewis.
They don't sell drugs.
Super drug.
Okay, yeah, all right. So that's the thing. Everybody's got natural preferences. So if one hypnotist you don't feel comfortable with, don't give up on the idea of hypnosis. That person would almost certainly, if they're ethical, give you the name of one or two others in your area, or you can search online. But you do need to make sure that you feel comfortable with the person. Yeah,
but this is what I was saying. I mean, rapport is everything, building that rapport with the client. They've got to feel understood. They've got to feel heard. And they've got to feel confident in your ability. Seriously. Yeah, and they've got to feel confident in your ability. And I think that's, this is sort of an important thing to get across to any potential clients for us that are watching this. we would never trivialize something, because sometimes people are embarrassed. They may suffer with some kind of anxiety that most other people wouldn't suffer with, or it wouldn't affect most other people. And sometimes people come to me and they feel a bit silly about their issue in the first place. Do you have that?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. And you know, if it's affecting you, it's not silly, is it?
No, exactly. And I mean, sometimes they'll say, oh, it's just a silly thing, but I want to get rid of it. And that's fine. But most things, if you are not suffering from it, it doesn't seem like a serious thing.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But we, you know, I think that's a point I'd like to get across, that we, you know, if you think it's an issue, then it is an issue, no matter what your friends say or your family or anybody else. If it's an issue for you, it's an issue for you, isn't it?
Yeah. How do you advertise your services? And I know you've got a lot of ways. How many blogs is it now? 5, 6?
Well, they're not blogs, are they? They're newspaper articles.
Yes.
It's five newspapers, and I do get people contacting me from them, but the main aim of those wasn't to rope in clients, as in individuals. It was just to increase general awareness and just get the conversation going about mental health, because, as you know, I'm quite passionate about that. But in terms of advertising, it's all referrals these days, either referrals from the clinic, referrals from other professionals, people who, you know, I've known through the profession, people in adjacent therapies. It's all referrals. I'm not advertised at all.
There's advertising, as in I have a Facebook page. You know, that's
yeah. I mean, I have a Facebook page. I have a LinkedIn profile. We do this podcast.
Indeed.
Yeah, indeed.
And you're very happy if you contact either or both of us.
Yeah, absolutely. You'll always find our contact details in the show notes. Denise, we filled an episode. Is there anything you want to add about the customer experience or client experience at your practice?
I think we should probably tell them that actually when we're working with a client, we're a lot more organized than we are when we're talking to each other on a podcast.
Yeah, but this is literally just a conversation between friends, isn't it?
Exactly.
And I hope that this helps dispel some of those myths that hypnosis is, you know, all mysterious and it's a blank wall. There's a cloak there that you mustn't know about.
From the dark side.
Yeah, no, not at all. Not at all. We're just people on either side of the pond.
Exactly.
All right, I'll catch you on the next one, Denise.
Okay.
Bye. Bye.
We hope you've enjoyed listening. Please remember, this podcast is designed to give you an insight into therapeutic hypnosis and is for educational purposes only. So remember, consult with your own healthcare professional if you think something you've heard may apply to you or a loved one.
If you found this episode useful, you can apply for free continuing professional development or CME credits using the link provided in the show notes. Feel free to contact either of us through the links in the show notes. Join us again next week.